Method matters. What we want to do is if someone who's rooted to reality in science, in economics, which is a science, in anthropology, which is a science, in psychology, which is a science, physics, chemistry, math, philosophy, everyday life, people working at, people connected to reality. Good method matters for reaching conclusions because we process. Good processing helps us have understanding, have wisdom, be creative, things like that. We got to process well to know well. If all we do is pretend that going through words is good cognitive processing conceptually, it's a fail. That's not a good way to process. Method matters. Some people think you learn a bunch of words and you can do some stuff and talk the same words as someone else, so you've learned something. Wrong. You have to learn something on a certain level. You've learned like this material skill about how to talk and how to like do things socially, but limited or no understanding of what's going on. It is not conceptual. There's not conceptual processing going on. To do that, we got to know what conception is in terms of, like logic and epistemology and thinking and reasoning. Forming concepts, induction, analogy, abstraction, things like that. We need to know how these things work to some extent to have good actual conceptual processing, getting a definition, all that. Like if it was maintained more, and instead of looking something up in a dictionary, if a better method would be, what is the genus? What is the differentia? And it would be to recognize that we don't have a concept without having things. A concept is an awareness of reality. We got to know something. We got to have that thing and not just pretend we're learning conceptually by getting a word, because we are not possible. Things of identity, they are the way they are. There are cause-effect relationships. We can't cause something by causing something else. If we want to get full, well, we can splash, from like a meal and be satiated. We can splash ourselves with water as much as we want, but it ain't gonna happen. Or if we want to eat and be satiated and have good nutrition, we can stuff a shirt in our mouth, but it ain't gonna happen. That's not the right cause-effect relationship. Or you can eat a bunch of Twinkies, but good nutrition ain't gonna happen. We got to get the right cause-effect relationship to achieve the thing. Same thing with getting a conceptual education and understanding things conceptually. And method matters. Like some people like to dog Aristotle. They don't even know Aristotle, understand him. It's a typical thing about people telling other people who they are and not finding out. That's a very unfortunate thing that happens too much. Instead of asking and inquiring, who is that person? What is their nature? What do they do? What is their identity? What is their character? What have they done? Where are they going? You'll see a lot. Start paying attention. You'll find in yourself the method of a lot of people is to tell you how you are. If you stop and think, you already know about that. About how some people want to try to rear you, lie about you, say things like that. Comes up in different situations, even from some so-called scientists who should know the scientific method, but don't, because they want to tell you how you are and not ask or inquire. That shows a failure to really get what science is about, to get the method. Method matters. Or, again, going back, after we develop that line of thinking, Aristotle and Plato. Some people want to badmouth Aristotle, not knowing who the hell he is or what he did. Look up his logic. Look up what he did in biology. Look up the special about Aristotle's lagoon. Look up what Darwin said about Aristotle. Look up what Alan Gotthelf and James Lennox said about Aristotle. Everybody makes mistakes. So do you. So do I. So we need to get over some of that and realize that people make mistakes. And what would they do? If someone lived a long time ago, method matters. You look at Plato, he turns away from the evidence of the senses because he thinks it's a lie. You do not look at experience. You turn away from that. That's how you know the truth. Aristotle, no. You look at the evidence of the senses. Bring them to, if we could bring them alive nowadays, Plato, keeping on his method, would deny a lot of things because he knows better. He's got insight to the truth. Whereas Aristotle, you say, hey, you said this back then. about a certain group of people. Do you still believe that? Look at this and this and this. We'll learn these things. Whoa, I see the argument. You're right. I look at the evidence of the senses and experience, and I reason from there. I see I didn't have that evidence back then, or we didn't have that, all that different levels of evidence that we could put together in this argument to get this correct conclusion. I agree. Just as Galileo himself said when talking to some scholastics. Galileo said basically, when I, Galileo, like kind of quote, paraphrase, quote, when I, Galileo, say that things in the heavens change, even though Aristotle said they don't, I contradict him much less than you. You agree with him that things do not change, but I say they do. But I'm more consistent with Aristotle because Aristotle said methodologically, epistemologically, fundamentally, at a philosophic base to doing any science. Before you can do any science, you got to have some philosophical bases down at a basic level. All human reasoning must be placed second to direct experience. Experience comes first. We get that. I start with experience, I, Galileo. I reason from there. I see what the solar system's like, and that things in the heavens are like things on earth, and there's change out there. It's not unchanging and all going in circles, but it's changing and dynamic and moving in different ways. When I reason from there, I'm being more consistent with Aristotle than you, who are authoritarian and who deny the evidence of the senses. Unquote, as a paraphrase. Method matters. That's one example of how Aristotle would also agree. He wasn't even so much interested in like physics and astronomy anyway. And other people at this time believe the same thing, so kind of blaming him on it is like ludicrous because he didn't like make it up all himself. So we'd want to look at what his method is. He would come into the society with things in biology, astronomy, physics. We could explain it to him. Human reasoning is second to direct experience. Methodologically, method matters. He would agree. Whereas Plato, with his method, no, none of that experience stuff. Experiments, wrong. Anybody who does an experiment is a weak reasoner, Plato would think. You got to look at the world. You got to like immerse yourself in reality, like Galileo or Darwin or Marie Curie or William Harvey. Ha! You're weak. You go through pure reason, That's how you reach things. Methodologically, that is a failure. That's, as long as someone's really saying that but committed to experience and the evidence of the senses, they'll be okay. But you take that seriously, someone's like not going to be too healthy psychologically. But method matters. There's a good example. So we should think about that. I recommend it. You can do whatever you want, but I suggest in business, in life, in dealing with people, in fitness, in teaching, we commit more to the evidence of the senses and having a good method of processing that, because method matters. Peace.